So a couple of weeks ago, we did a story involving Russia and how there are bigger things concerning Russia that actually are not being discussed. So at that time, we talked about the financial ties of Trump to Russia. And so now we're going to focus on the building tensions between US and Russia as a whole. So at the end of last month, the US sent ships to the Russian border in the Black Sea. So if you are not familiar with the Black Sea, it's actually located in Eurasia and it's surrounded by Europe, Caucasus, and Anatolia. The countries that share a border with the Black Sea include Romania, Turkey, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Russia, and Georgia. So out of the top 10 cities that are located on the sea, 2 of them are actually Russian cities, Sochi and Novorossiysk. So this area has increased tensions between Russia and Ukraine since the Crimean Peninsula was annexed in 2014. So the American military newspaper Stars and Stripes wrote in an article published late February that, quote, more warships are in the theater partly because NATO is running more missions and exercises in response to Russia's assertive actions, which is setting the stage for what Kyle Kulinski is proposing on this clip here.
We're right on Russia's border and we keep escalating. Now we have our ships in the sea right by them. And as terrible as Vladimir Putin is, and he is, what do you think this is viewed as? Is this viewed as, oh, it's the lovely Americans coming to be, you know, friends with us? No, it's viewed as, oh, you're escalating. You're looking like you want to topple me. What happens when you put somebody in a corner like that? How do they react? How does any human being react when you put them in a corner like that? They lash out. And then if/when Russia lashes out, it'll be painted as, they're obviously the aggressors. Ignore the fact that we've been building up NATO on their border, we arm the Ukrainian rebels, we sanction them nonstop, and now we have fucking our Navy right in the Black Sea by them. It'll still be viewed as, we are 100% defensive by definition, even when we're not. And they are 100% offensive by definition, even when they're not. And then again, the fact that I'm pointing out this fact, people will go pro-Putin. Well, go ahead. Have your smears and have your straw men all day long, and I hope you have fun with that. But at the end of the day, people see through it. People see through that, and people on the left know what's going on here, and they're fighting back against it valiantly.
There's also been noted increase in our military Sealift Command, or MSC, added ships, and it has had an increase in ordnance, critical parts, and cargo in the area over the last year. And according to the MSC Deputy Operations Officer in Europe, Fred Woody, the Navy Support Command, which oversees the leasing of commercial cargo ships for all military services, has seen shipments of vehicles and helicopters almost double in the past year in Europe and Africa. This isn't the first show of force America has recently taken against Russia. So in early February, the Syrian region of Deir ez-Zor, sorry, I'm trying my best to pronounce that, was revealed that at least 4 Russian nationals were killed by a US-backed coalition in that particular area. And another such incident in last June occurred when the US shot down a Syrian jet and Russia called it an act of aggression. So much of these incidents are being downplayed by both Russia and the United States. And that's because for the most part, they are each sticking to their own designated areas within Syria. And it could very easily become very ugly and evolve quite quickly. So when the left is saying that 13 Russians running online accounts to create chaos in our elections with very little, if no proof that they actually did affect the election results, it's not because we think that it's fine that anybody or our country tries to mess in our elections or in any type of electoral process. It's because of the xenophobia that is spread by these claims and the beating of these war drums by both the Democratic and Republican parties that are our primary concerns. And additionally, it's not okay when kind of the rebuttal is, the US interferes in elections too, and the US shouldn't interfere in elections either. is what the rebuttal from me will always be. Russia shouldn't do it, and neither should the United States. And just because one party does it doesn't validate the other party doing it either. It's both wrong. It's still wrong. Janet, is there anything that you would like to say initially off the bat from the story?
We need to focus on what's happening here. I mean, even with the North Korean thing where you have Maddow coming out like, how could, Trump be wanting to talk to him? No other leader wants to talk to the North Korean leader. So why would Trump do this? This is bad. And all I can say is, no, any peace talk is not bad. And when we're going and we're just doing these little acts of aggression against, a pretty decent sized country that has nuclear weapons, we need to think about this stuff. We can't just be we just think with this Western centric, we are number one, they need to listen to us, and that's just not, it's not how, that's not going to solve anything. It's not going to solve anything. It's going to bring us to World War III.
Okay, so I'm a bit confused, I guess, more than anything, by the way that this is going down. So it seems like you have a White House that isn't really communicating with the military, or vice versa, and vice versa. And what I mean by that, because you had sanctions enacted by both the House and Senate, yet those sanctions that were approved by a huge majority of these vote, I guess the Senate and the House, did not go into effect. The White House refuses to implement those sanctions. And then you have a White House that says, Putin, he's great. There's nothing wrong with him. He's fantastic. Yet we know Putin, he's not great. He's not fantastic. I know I'm going to anger probably a few people on the left for saying that. And just because Putin and Trump don't want to go to war with each other, which is fair, doesn't make Putin or Trump good actors at all. And so it seems like to me, increasing tensions by the military is the exact opposite of what the White House is doing. I, as a person, I'm kind of confused by both of them seeming to not actually talk to each other, at the very least.
Well, I think too is it's got to be confusing. It's got to be confusing to the rest of the world too. I mean, here you have a White House saying one thing, and you have our military showing something else. I mean, we've been in the last year have been moving things in that over to that theater, as they call it in military, but they're moving everything over there. They're supplying more ships. They're supplying more whatever. I mean, guns, I'm sure, everything. And so what, where's this going, and why do we have a White House saying one thing and our military acting totally different? And it's scary, and it's dangerous.
And the military and the intelligence agencies, right? So the intel agencies are saying, yeah, Russian did at the least try to meddle in the elections to some extent, whether it was just a social media campaign and the like, which I find, again, hard to believe that even influenced one single vote. Let's just be real. And there was a HuffPost article, not HuffPost, it was on The Hill the other day, yesterday maybe, an article saying, oh, look, they made this video game with bombs being dropped on Hillary Clinton, and it was like the most funky donkey looking video game. It looked like something from like early 1980s, right? Like Mario pixelation type of video game. And I think there was like a character on the right hand side, and I'm like, is that Robin Thicke? Because he had like the sunglasses on and like the beard, some white guy, and it just looked like Robin Thicke to me. I'm like, this is a joke, right? Is this a joke? And I think the Hill article is like, see, they interfered, gotcha. I'm like, was anybody convinced by a stupid video game that enough to sway the election? No way. Come on, guys. Come on. Be real. I was just going to go back to your point about how it is confusing. You do have two people that don't in it, and how it is confusing with the world too. You've got two things that are seemingly to act so differently in relation to the Russian situation.
Well, I mean, do you feel like this whole thing, like, oh, they interfered in our election, is that our weapons of mass destruction for a new war? That is kind of how I almost read it, because it seems like, well, how do we get people to feel it's okay to go to war here? How are we gonna make people feel that it's okay?
It's a bad idea. Going to war with Russia would be a terrible idea because they do have nuclear arms, and it would destroy the world. I mean, I think Putin said the other day, it was either through a newspaper or through one of his television media outlets, that that they would not hesitate to drop nuclear bombs if they were attacked first. But again, they have to be attacked first, and that's why it's not okay to start a war with Russia. Any way we can do anything diplomatically would be the best, while also stressing that it's not okay to interfere in anybody's elections whatsoever.
What happens in 3 years when hopefully we vote Trump out? I mean, do we hold this? Do we hold for the 3 years, and then we get somebody in that Putin may not like very much, and then that's when it all starts?
That's a deeper issue, because if Russia did meddle with the election, there are absolutely no precautions being taken currently to assure that any type of meddling campaign doesn't occur again and it's not worsened. There's nothing. And in fact, I think that the organization that the House and Senate allocated funds to, not the organization, but to the department that is supposed to help with the elections and to ensure that our elections are tamper-free, that department has spent $0 of the $20 million that were allocated to that this entire time. And that was very early on last year that they were allocated these funds. So it seems like this administration has no interest in assuring that our elections stay tamper-free. And so that's a concern for a lot of people, understandably, because you want to assure that any type of election is fair. And this is kind of spinning off from your point that if they're not, and if they do a serious meddling campaign in the future, Trump will win again, even if it's illegitimate. And so that's a concern that I'm sure a lot of people in the U.S. have. But of course, nothing's being done about that. So I feel like if any state really does believe this, that really does believe that the elections were meddled with, we've got California, very blue state. There's a few other of them left in the country, not a lot. But there are blue states. So what are they doing to assure that their election process is not tampered with? And I haven't heard anything. They may be doing something. And that's purely if they truly believe that Russia did meddle in the elections. But I haven't seen anything happening regarding that.
Yeah, no, I know. I see that too. It's like, so here you are throwing out, boo, the Russians got us through our elections, but we're not going to do anything about it. So,
right.
Your worry is just worry, and we're just going to keep on bringing up that worry and not do anything about it. And hopefully it plays out okay in the end, and we get a Democrat in office, because then that will be that will change everything. I don't get it.
Well, and then again, going to your point again, so you have a neoliberal candidate that wins the 2020 election, like Clinton, not saying that she's running or anything. And then again, what does happen with Russia? Does she retaliate? I have no idea. I would hate for her or anybody to do that. what would a campaign against Russia look like as far as a war look like? I don't want to go to war with Russia. I think the vast majority of Americans don't want that, but I don't think they're thinking that far ahead at all. I don't.
No, it's our leaders are just they're so mad at what happened in that election. They're not planning ahead. They're not, and then you got the media throwing out things about, Russia this, Russia that, and people are like, oh, those damn Russians. And how do you think people from Russia feel?
Yeah,
there's people from Russia, they don't like Putin either, and they don't really like what's going on either. And here we are, just throwing that out, making people scared of Russians. You had Jennifer Palmineri, whatever her name is, say do a tweet that she was getting into a cab and it was a Russian cab. So if she doesn't, come out, if we don't hear from her, then we know what happened. Like, this is someone that worked on a major campaign, worked in the White House, and she's tweeting this out. Like, that's not right.
This is red baiting at its finest, right? I mean, this is basically McCarthyism 2.0, what we're seeing. If you don't want to go to war with Russia, then, oh my God, you're a Russian operative. No, I just don't want to see the world nuked. Is that not okay? I mean, seriously? Just because a Russian is in the United States driving a damn cab doesn't make them Russian operatives. I don't understand why people would automatically go there if it wasn't for this red baiting stuff, which is insane. It's like, do we never learn from the past? Do we seriously not learn anything? Lives were ruined because of McCarthyism. Lives were ruined. I was reading a book about professors that lost their professorship because they didn't support these wars, or they didn't support I guess the CIA at the time, or they were telling they weren't necessarily even teaching in their classes that that Russia was great or anything like that during that time. They were sociologists and anthropologists that were getting attacked because they were involved in social justice movements, like trying to assure civil rights. And these guys lost professorships because of it. There was a museum curator that lost their position and their pension because of this red baiting, because his wife was a socialist. And since when was it illegal to be a socialist or a communist in the United States? It never was, and it never should be. You can have any type of political belief or political ideology. But that's a good thing in the United States, and we should uphold that. And once you start attacking them for their political ideologies, and you see people on the left of left being attacked because they are social justice warriors, because they're like, I don't want to go to war. War devastates women particularly, and children, particularly people that are like underrepresented in their country. It disproportionately affects them. And you want to advocate for war is essentially what you're doing. Like, no sense, none whatsoever. And this is from a supposedly liberal party. The Democratic Party is all about beating those war drums right now.